Picked the wrong week and quit sniffing glue.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. It is week 4 on the time machine build, and after many fits of starts, now this is Tuesday. I didn't work on the time machine at all yesterday. I worked on another project which is also on the channel, and you're free to enjoy that, but it has nothing to do with this. After many fits and starts, we are finally back to doing the electronic hookups, the power hookups for the chair itself. The delay was kind of nice because, if I can find them here, it allowed me to replenish my stock of power jack holes. Sorry about that, but the female part of the power jacks. I get these from Amazon, and I get them 10 at a time, and I thought I had some left, and then apparently I didn't, so I doubled up my order to make sure I don't run out again. But they're basically these guys. They take the 9-volt power jack, and you can add them to your kit very easily. So those are my jack holes. They fit these. Basically, you do this. Doesn't get any simpler than that. Anyway, so I'm working on making up the little box that's going to go here, and I'm putting some little filigree type of curly cues on the edge there to make it look appropriate, subject appropriate. And I've got the holes bored out for the two different things that are going to go in it. One is, of course, the switch and the aforementioned jack hole. So now all I need to do is, oh, and also I painted in the rivets this morning, so those are nice and fresh. Let me get a pad here. I got used to using these fiberfill pads, so this will keep the paint nice and protected while I attach this box. It's going to sit something like this, and I just need to build the box around it and then run the wiring out to where the posts or the rails are going to come down. So what I need to do at this point is cut a front and a back and a couple of sides. So I'm going to determine that this needs to be about, let's see, if that's going to go there, then the box needs to be about that deep. Let's make it about that deep. Okay, well, that's what I'll put this box together, and next thing you know, we're going to start wiring it up. Okie dokie, I've got the switch and jack hooked up. Just a little example here to show that it is working, that the switch is working, that it is getting power. Now I just need to paint this up and put some primer on it, paint it up, and stick it on the bottom here so that it looks something like this when we're done. Hello and welcome back. It is, excuse me, it's still Tuesday, and I am wondering what kind of trouble I can get into today. I have the switch box is out in the other room drying. Once the paint on it's dry, I can install it. So I'm thinking about the next steps, which are to channel that wiring along the base. Now this is how the rail is going to look once it's in. And then of course this is going to fit back here. And then this is going to go on top of it like that. Now it occurs to me that I need to drill another hole in this that I can use for a wire chase. This one that's in here already, I might need that for the motor for the drive shaft. So I don't want to run the risk of putting any wires in what could end up being my drive shaft hole. So I can drill another one back here somewhere that will allow me to chase wires up, because there's a bunch of wiring that has to happen in here. Not only does the motor need power, if the motor is going to go in this hole, which if it does is going to be the shaft is going to end up being way shorter than that. But if it ends up going something like this, then I need to know. I don't think it is. I think it's going to end up going in here, something like this, with a much shorter shaft on it. But I need to get power to that. Plus I'll need to get power to the big cones on either side. And I'll need power to go up to the brake light that's on the top here. So let me get the drill out with the long bit and take care of that messy thing. And the next thing to consider on this front end here is, am I ready to go ahead and join up the power wire to the front box? That's something that needs to be addressed. I can put all the wiring that I need to do on the motor control box. I can put that in place and kind of shove that up in there and get it out of the way. My main chase here for the wiring, yes, make sure it doesn't fall off. My main chase for the wiring is going to be box in the back. Yes, I can see all these pieces falling off. Box in the back, and then one set of wires going up into the stack here, and then another wire going over to here. And then we'll just run some tape on that, cover it back up, or put some black felt on it or something. The other rail goes in here, and that's going to take the wires that come out of the box, out of the control box, and go straight and go back to the motor control board. So yeah, I think we're almost to that point where we're ready to start attaching things. I expect to get the excuse me, the mechanics for the wheel turning, the bevel gears and all that in the next, I don't know, handful of days. So once that happens, I will know my final setups. But there are some things I can go ahead and start gluing down, and that's what I'm trying to determine at this point. Alrighty, I've got the switch and power jack mounted to the back there. I think that's going to do everything I need it to do. And then I chase the wires. There's going to be one set of wires that go up into the stack, and then of course the sets of wires that are going to go up to the power here. I'm having one of those Mandela effect moments. I was working on the base here, and I could have sworn that these big old bolts were brass like the rest of the other brass accents, but apparently no, they are the same painted green as the rest. So I need to repaint those before I can glue this down. But that's really the next step, is to go ahead and hunker that down and glue it where it needs to go. And then we're ready to start working on the stack. I've got confirmation from Phil that my metal parts should be here tomorrow, so that's going to be a big day of exploration on those. But I'm thinking what I'd like to do, well, since I know that those metal parts are coming so soon, I'll hold off on mounting the I was going to go ahead and mount the board in here, but I can hold off on that, because if those metal parts are in fact coming tomorrow, then I'm better off working on them just out loose. But I can go ahead and repaint those. The thing that I do need to paint gold are these boxes on the back of this main housing. Now, going from the dark green to the gold was easy enough for the decals. Not so easy with paint, so I'm picking a warm gray, a medium gray to start with, to kind of negate the dark green, and then I can put the gold over top of that. And the gold doesn't have to work as hard that way, and I don't have to use as heavy of a coat. Okay, so I've just painted the gold, and now I'm going to remove the masking that I had for this. This is just simple, straight strips of vinyl. There's nothing fancy about it. Oh, I can never find my tweezers when I'm looking for them. Oh, come on, get the last one out. There you go. Nice gold boxes. Morning, everybody. It's Wednesday. It is hump day. It is a bit of cleanup today. Now, I am waiting for the mechanical parts to arrive via winged pigeon courier that Phil has sent out. He's promised I will have them today. I don't know. So, I'm doing a bit of cleanup. So I'm turning my attention to the motor control board, which is this big red square thing in the back. And I'm cleaning it up and minimizing it and making it take up less space by getting rid of these bulky things. These are the screw down terminals, and they're handy. They have their purpose, but really once you know where your wires are going, you don't need those. So I just basically removed those from the board and soldered my wires, reconnected them straight to the board. What that does is it saves me a heck of a lot of space. Makes the wiring more compact, and now I can just put this whole thing right in the crevice there, right in this cavity, and this wire runs out and runs my motor. This runs power into it, and these are the two control wires that will come off of the control console and down the rail and to the back. So this is all ready to sit in here now. This is the power wire that I ran yesterday, but now everything will sit and take up minimum amount of space. I'm sorry, I've got wires poking out the front, that's why it's not sitting level. But that'll sit like that with all the wiring inside. So I'm going off the rails. Actually, I'm going on the rails. Doing starting the delicate hookup wiring stuff. I'm going to determine my power line coming in the rail. It's coming out through there. I've got to make up these two joints and get them soldered and tucked back in there. And then we are going to be proceeding off to the other side now. The only thing is, I'm back to what I said last week. I can't close this up until I've done the last bit of programming, and I'm so clumsy. I am my own worst enemy at this point. So something's got to get done, and there's just no clever or easy way to do it that I'm aware of. So I'm just waiting for the soldering iron to heat up. Alright, it may not look like much, but it's got it where it counts, kid. Power's going up and into the rail, out there and into the board. And when I move the pot meter a little bit, you see the side lights come on, and the number of the dates start doing their thing. We'll shut that back off. But yep, that's success to that point. Still waiting. Phil, you swore they were going to be here this morning. They're not here yet. I got up early, waiting. Been waiting by the door. No joy yet. Bad news, kids. Just got an update that the parts from Phil will not be here today. They're claiming weather, although it's a beautiful sunny day. I don't know why. Anyway, so I'm going to find something else to do on this. And I think maybe what I'll do is go ahead and plot and put down the vinyl on these cones that go on the back. That'll be a fun, good, big, showy thing that has to get done. Alrighty, we got the two designs for the side cones. We've got those plotted, and I've got them weeded. And weeding is nothing but removing everything you don't want to keep. And now I'll put some transfer tape down, and we'll get ready to stick them to the side cones. Okay, I'm going to do something that's always very risky. I'm going to apply these things live on camera. And the mere fact that you're seeing it means it went well, because if it didn't go well, I edited this part right out of the video. So here you go. I'm just removing the backing paper from the vinyl. It is still stuck down to the transfer tape. And really, this thing is symmetrical, so it doesn't matter where you start. There were some scratches on this that I want to hide, so I want to make sure that's at the bottom. But really, it's a question of taking the center, popping it down, and then just wrapping it around the edge. Just wrapping it around. Like I say, might have to cut some darts in it. We'll do that when we've got everything down, because we want these. Yeah, see, it overlaps just a tiny bit. Okay, we're going to stick this down, rub it down, and then we're going to remove the transfer tape. Okay. Getting some wrinklage here. We can burnish that down. But yeah, that's coming out just a treat here. Right up against that gold edge at the top here. And this is the gold frame here. Let's see if I can use this as an example. It's going to meet up against the gold frame there, so it doesn't have to come all the way out to the to this edge, because it's going to get covered up. So let's go ahead and get the rest of this peeled off. Yes, and this is where the tape went underneath it. Okay, so a little bit of overlap here, and that overlap here is going to go to the bottom, so you won't be seeing that. But I'm going to push this down, and yeah, that's going to look just fine. Do this one more time and we'll all be done. Okay, I'm looking at putting some red strip lighting in the domes, and I know that it looks a bit, especially on camera, you can see the strip lighting a lot more obviously, but I don't care. I kind of like it. I was thinking maybe a just a ring back here might be enough. Stop it. If I did a simple ring like this and just planted it at the back, or at the widest point, that might be enough. Or if I tried to put it in the center here, where the black vinyl covered up the sourciness of it, that could be fun too. And then there's enough left to shine out into the cap, unless I want to do something like this, where I just make something folded up on itself and make one of the bulbs be at the end here, so that it shines up brighter on the dome at the end. Something like that I think might have more merit to it. But yeah, that's what I think what I've got in mind. I would be tempted to just make some sort of internal structure here that would go through both, just like a cross structure. But right in here is probably where my motor is going to be sitting. So whatever I do, it needs to be kept to itself, I think. And of course, this area where the vinyl overlaps just goes at the bottom, so you don't see the ugliness. But there, something like that, and on both sides. Okay, so I've just spent the last few minutes making up this little structure like here. It's got a strip of red LEDs going across it with a little bulb up here. And what's going to happen is I'm going to glue that to the inside just like that. And that gives me plenty of light coming out to the top here. So that's going to be, and I'm going to angle it such that when it is in, if that's going to be the bottom, then that's going to be perpendicular to it, so it's shining front and back. And again, you get the light coming out of the tip there. So yay! Now all I gotta do is make another one of these. And we have our 2 lit up cones. And I think that's going to be a great place to stop for today. These are ready to go on to the side rails. And they'll be wired into earmuffs on the sides of this main control box. So all considered, got a good chunk of things done today. Wait for tomorrow to get the mechanical guts, and then we'll embark on that little adventure. Ladies and gentlemen, a day late, but nonetheless, here are the metal parts from the wonderful Phil. Now they are exactly as promised, and I think we're gonna. I think we're gonna be in pretty good shape here. There were obviously some sizes I was worried about, so we're gonna start with first things first. This is the bowling pin part. This is what goes up against the back of the saucer, and I was concerned. First of all, here is the shaft I'm going to be using on the saucer. It is a threaded rod. This is going to go into the saucer. It's got plenty of clearance, but I want to put it inside a sleeve, and the sleeve has plenty of clearance. I was making sure that that was going to fit, so we're going to have something like this, which is spinning inside that sleeve, which is good. This is what's going to attach to the back, so we're getting there. This may be backwards. So if that's going to fit, then the whole thing goes into a ball like this. And once it goes into that ball, we will have a gear. We will have the first bevel gear on it like that. The bevel gear then attaches to the next shaft that goes this way, which is the shaft that comes up out of the motor, and that's going to have a bevel gear on it. So things I think are going to work. I just need to maybe clean these out a little bit. The shame is they're not going to be big enough to put the what's the word you're looking for? I know it's early in the morning. It's only 8:30. I'm not used to functioning this early in the morning. The bearing, that's the word I was looking for. The bearing is not big enough to allow a bearing fitting, but we're going to see what we can do about that. This is the teapot that sits above it, that sits here. I am not going to be using this part. These are the 2 parts I will not be using. This is the front. There's no reason for that to be metal. I can use the plastic, the resin part that already has the decal on it. I can use that just fine. So we'll put that to the side. This is the plate that you would normally screw to the front of the dish. I am replacing it with this part, so we don't need that one. I'm going to do a quick mock-up here, and then we're going to see. I have to decide whether I'm going to use this part, which is the last piece that goes up before the lantern, or whether I'm going to use the kit part. They both need a little bit of cleanup, but we're going to see which one of those is going to be better, since I only need to pass a thin wire through there. It doesn't need to be completely bored out like that. So I'm excited. I finally got all these parts. I'm going to start putting them in some sort of order. Okay, I've had a little bit of time to assess what I've got, and the first thing I've learned is that I know nothing. Trying to take this and attack it from both sides at the same time. This is how, let me see, take this bit off here for a second. This is how Phil has decided to attack his, and I'm starting to see the merit in it. He's basically putting his entire motor in the ball, and then running that ball, or running that motor, like that, straight back to the dish. I'm starting to see the appeal of that. Certainly a lot simpler. I don't know what would happen to all the torque and everything that would happen here. Certainly this would need to be isolated for that to happen. I'm also kind of concerned about the wear and tear on the motor. You remember what I said about it seems to run better at the slow speed if it's in this orientation. the whole raison d'etre of what we had talked about originally was to run everything on a bevel gear. And I still think that idea has merit. I still want to do that. I'm trying to figure out where we need to adjust our thinking, though. I've got to get some, obviously I've got to get some additional parts, because we're in the 3 mil and 4 mil area, where some of these things have a 3 mil diameter. This has a 3 mil diameter. Most of the posts I'm working with are 4 mil, so it's an issue. It's something to think about. This is how it sits on the top of the stack. The long one is at the bottom. So if it sits like this, actually, you know, I could flip that around. I could do this, and then run the secondary shaft here. And that's basically where our bevel gear comes in. This is forcing, if this comes from the motor, see, there's the motor. Now this shaft obviously has to be shortened. If I can shorten that shaft and reduce the end of it to a 3 mil, which means basically grinding off some of these threads, then that would work, because what I would like to do, what I'd like to envision, is something where that is sitting there, about that orientation, and then coming up to this ball through a sleeve, so that there's no wear and tear on that, and then going out to the dish on both sides. I think I might need to, just move that down a little bit so that this is sitting inside of here. Let me tighten that down. Now the thing about it is, what I'd like to use going back to the dish is this threaded rod, but this threaded rod is too big for this fitting. So I either need to drill out that fitting to accept this wider rod, or again I have to take the threads off of this rod to make it fit. So we're kind of in that where these bevel gears are causing the stress. I might have to just look up finding 4 mil bevel gears. So there's our device. The motor at the bottom spinning this, which once you hit that, spins this shaft like that. Spins that shaft, which comes back through that device and into this plate, which mounts to the wheel. So basically you have that much of a distance between the back edge and the wheel. That's something we need to worry about, because the increased size of this ball means it's sitting up higher than it used to. So I'm going to have to adjust maybe this bell, cut off some of the height of it so that it sits down lower, because the height of the dish is important, not only aesthetically, but it has to, that big frame that goes around it also has to fit. And if the dish sits too low, it's going to rub on that frame. If it sits too high, then it looks strange behind the chair. So all of this stuff has to kind of come into play. The thing that I am most hopeful about is that this piece here is drilled out enough to fit this piece of brass, which is good, because inside of that piece of brass I can run the shaft and it will give me my bearing. It keeps everything straight and true. I don't want to run just the shaft inside of this piece of pewter, because I think this pewter is soft and I think it might wear it out. So if we have something that looks like this, where let me see if I have to do it. Might have to do it from this side. Hold the phone. Okay. This is coming through the back. This is going through here, through the back of the dish, and there will be some sort of bolt on the back side of the dish. So if that is, we'll just say it looks something like that, and we tighten that down. Okay, so that's locked into place. That's going to spin the dish like this. And this can be attached to the front of the ball. Now, I think to make that work, I'm going to have to bore this out a tiny bit. I think I'm going to have to like clamp these two halves together and then bore that hole out just a little bit more. That's a tricky thing that's going to happen. And then the whole thing sits in it like that. So, like I said, I'm still wrapping my head around all of this. Actually, no, that doesn't sit like that. That sits like this. I was wrong. I'm looking at the resin part that just matches up to, and it sits like that. Okay, it sits like that with this dog collar ring there. That's how it sits. So the whole thing sits like that. And we can JB weld or whatever we need to get all these metal parts to like each other. Right now they're kind of not. I can see where these two pieces aren't. They're not working as well together as they should in making this ring fit. So we see some gaps there that need filling. Okay, I'm making some progress, but it's coming slowly. I've got collars over top of these two arms on the ball. This is the spin that I'm looking for. Let's get it in camera here. Let's point the camera up a little higher. Thank you. Up. Thank you. This is what I'm aiming for. There's the spin. Loving that spin I'm in. It's going to take some resanding and regrinding on the ball to make the sides line up, though. If I can put these caps on all four corners, or all four of the posts, that will hold everybody in place. The issue comes when I am trying to make the shafts here. Obviously, they can't both be the full length. That one of them has to stop at the top where the bevel gear hits it. I can make one of them pass all the way through the bevel gear, but I can't make both of that happen. So I am going to try. This is brass, and hopefully hopefully it is soft enough that I can drill out this 3mm hole to a 4mm hole. This is the only set of bevel gears I have. If I screw these up, I'm going to have to order a new set, and that's going to put me in another weighting pattern. But that's, let me see if I can show you. This is how, that won't fit on there. This is how they have to fit together. Only one of them can use the complete bypass. Okay, I have thoroughly investigated, well, not thoroughly, you can never do anything thoroughly. I have, to the limits of my poor feebled addled mind, have investigated the parts that were received today, and I'm considering something rather radical, and I'll share that with you. This is the ball, this is the big ball, and what we have to do is we have to join up in such a way that let me find the other one, where did it go? That's the other thing, is keeping everything straight. We have to join up these two things so that they do the spinny thing like they are supposed to. Now, and that's going to be the same no matter what motor is on here. This spinny thing has to happen. This does not need to be a threaded rod. Right now it is a threaded rod. It doesn't need to always be a threaded rod. And a threaded rod is causing me some heartache right now, because it wants to hit this soft metal and spin like a threaded rod. It wants to thread itself in. So that means I have to put bushings everywhere, and bushings like this would keep those lines from binding up. So what I've got is something like this and something like this, and then I've got to encapsulate that in the other half of the ball, which means I've got to join like 4 or 5 different things and hold them all together and bind them forever while you're balancing on one foot and singing hallelujah. So what I'm thinking of doing is something radical, which is to go ahead and epoxy / glue / solder both of these halves in place. Just go ahead and glue it and then cut back into it to cut into it. That will allow me to work on the ball with these 3 stems in place. They will all be solid. They won't be half and half like this. So if I could solidify those stems, that makes everything else a whole lot easier to work with. Then I can put the shaft up through it. Actually, what I would need to do in that case would be to, through the open hole, push the shaft up through something like this and put the bevel gear on it, pull it back down so that it sits in the right place. Again, pretend you can see this, so you're seeing through this. Push this all the way up. This will be cut off now. I can attach this bevel gear, pull it back down into place, and then do the same thing. Push. Of course, this would stop at that point. There would be no gear above. It would look like this. It would not have any rod above it. Basically, it would allow me to push this up through, attach it, bring it back down, sit it in here. Then I could run my rod through it, have the other bevel gear waiting, attach it on here, and then be able to tighten down that set screw. So that tells me that this needs to be cut off something like that, just above. Well, I'll show you on the outside, just above the Sharpie out, just above the radius here. If I could cut it like that, and I whether do that on the bandsaw or what, I don't know, but if I do that, then that will allow me to get inside, make my adjustments, and then seal everything up, pack it with grease, seal everything up, and then pop this top back on like it were a tea kettle. Welcome back to the mess, my friends. It's Friday. It's the last work day of the week. It's the last work day on the... It probably won't be the last work day on the time machine for this week. This is going to be devil me all weekend long. You can see what kind of disarray we're in. Disarray right here. Disarray ain't working. So I am trying to concentrate on some fun stuff that I can get to work, which is mainly painting things, and trying to struggle through these metal pieces. I think splitting an atom would be easier than trying to split this thing, trying to get it to work. It's driven me to drink. Actually, it's driven me back to the 3D printer. I am attempting to print my own ball. I talked to Phil about this ball yesterday, and the problem, not the problem with it, an issue with it that I think I could do better is if it had been, let me see if I can give you an example. If it had been split, rather than splitting it this way, which is the way it had to be cast, if it had been split this way, with a cap on the top of it like this, not this one obviously, but this one, if we did something like that, then we might, once we capture the side rails in, then it becomes an easier thing to deal with. Now the problem with it is I'm tweaking the size of it right now, because as much as I would like to make this smaller, I got to give it to the engineer. He made it probably about as small as you can with to accommodate these bevel gears. Now this is showing you what this one looked like, trying to put a bevel gear down into it, and then putting the see, that would go like that, and then putting the side bevel gear into it, just to make the room that you need. It needs to be bigger. And honestly, I don't know what the 3D printed is going to get me that this metal one doesn't, but I'm using it, I guess, maybe as a test bed to try out some theories before I go for the good stuff. Maybe that's it. But right now I'm on my second try of the sizing on this. Now, all I do basically when I print these is I'll print one, I'll whip up one, and then bump up the size of it a few percent and see what works. And if I have to, I'll bump it up a few more percent and print it again. It doesn't take all that long to print, and I just don't have the brain to try to do the math because it's metric and I'm not metric, and I'm trying to figure out. I mean, the way the printing or the slicing software works, everything is in metric, and that is not my forte. So trying to again see how this goes even, and I don't think I'm going to be able in the end to make it any smaller than the cast pieces. So that's where we are. I am, like I said, going through and trying to find some fun stuff that I can paint and make. I had that battery a second ago. See, my table is just becoming such a mess. But I'm trying to do some fun stuff here so that we can see that progress is being made. And when you line that up with the side cones that I did earlier this week, we do have some fun stuff. That's going to look really nice by the time we're done. And I'm also working on parts that I can salvage from the original resin kit. Frankly, a lot of these cast pieces, they're too heavy and too cumbersome. I think these will work better if I can sink a rod down into there. And then let's see where this piece goes on top of that, and then maybe the ball goes on top of that. Should go something like that by the time we're done. And let's see if we did that. That's not even the right ball. Never mind. Let's do this. Let's do that. And the correct ball with the correct top. Something like that. And then this goes to the back of it. Something along the lines of that. Okay, because I can't resist just piecing everything together to see how it's going to look. This is an idealized version of the time machine. If I can get the final one to look this good, I will be happy. That ball is not the final ball. I am printing the final ball, or at least something similar. But if I had to choose, and you know, it never being a motorized thing, I would still be happy with manually spinning that wheel. If all I ever did was get the lights to light up and I never got the worm gear to work, I would be happy with that. But I've not given up on the worm gear. Don't think that for a second. I just had to piece everything together with rubber bands and some spit and baling wire just to see how it looks. Now, of course, the main control panel is still sitting over there along with the other rail. But I needed to see, most importantly, whether or not this wheel was going to hit the side rail here. And it is up high enough that it does not hit it. But yeah, now if I can only get the motor part of it to work. Okay, this is where I'm going to leave it for this week. Now the printing has got maybe a half an hour left to it. Before we shut down for the week, I want to pull those out and evaluate whether or not they're going to do what I want them to do, but I'm probably going to work on those this weekend. Basically, I've taken the lessons learned from these guys and I've blown them up a little bit larger, so it's going to end up being bigger than that, but hopefully not as big as the metal one. Hopefully not as big as that. So that's where we're going to leave it. Now, I was going to light these up, but no, that involves too much digging around for the wiring, and I really want to put the chair back on its shelf so that I'm not monkeying around with the flocking on the chair and running the risk of wearing that off. But I think Wayne said it in his video. I think he said it best. We're rapidly getting to a point of no return where I have to decide how certain things are going to look and then just get on with it. If the wheel turns, the wheel turns. If it doesn't turn the 2 speeds that I want, we may have to adapt. But I think we are to a point of getting it done to get it done. Well, the new parts are out of the printer. I am very, very hopeful. This is what happens when you design it to be cut this way instead of half the other way. And when I put, let's see, I'm going to try to run this the correct way. I'm going to have to remount this bevel gear just a tiny bit. It is not quite wide enough. The hole is not quite wide enough for the gear, or for the brass rod that I have. Now, I could probably take a lot of time and order another one, but what I want to do is make do with the parts that I've got. Let's see, if I do that, and then I run that through like that, spin this to the point where, there you go, so that I can get that set screw here. Okay, I want to show you what this is. Make sure that there's enough light in there so you can see what's going on. You can see the 2 right angle gears. I've got to work up a better way to keep the bottom one stable, but it is, and some, you know, grease and all that, but oh, come on, why is it bound up? It was working a second ago. There you go. When you spin one, it spins the other. That's all it's required to do. Now, if I ever get this to the point where it is ready to be closed up, I'll pack that with grease. But I need to immobilize this bottom one so that it's spinning true. See, I can do it this way. It might be more apparent. Let me get a piece of tape. Hold on. Talk amongst yourselves. So if I do this, you can see that the lateral, or the horizontal, or the vertical motion is being translated into horizontal motion. All I got to do is, see, I'm happy that I've got my clearances. That's all working. what I need to do at this point is just clean everything up and grease it up and true it up, and we will be good to go. So on that hopeful note, that is where we're going to close this week's work. Okay, it was a heck of a week, but I think we finished strong. I'm probably going to just continue to work on this tomorrow, because I am to a point now where I'm starting to see the kind of progress I've been looking for all week, and I don't want to stop in midstream and try to remember when I come back to this next week what it was I did. Because this I won't lie to you, this project I've been losing sleep over it. It's been waking me up early in the morning. It's been haunting my dreams at night. This is the challenge part of the Sprueverse challenge. I always knew the painting was going to be easy. I knew the electronics was going to be interesting, but I knew the mechanical was going to kick my butt left, right, and center, and it's proving to be the exact thing. It is the mechanical aspects of this thing that is really challenging me, shall we say. So that's the end of this week. We'll pick this up again Monday. Hopefully I'll have some progress to report from work over the weekend. So until then, y'all be good to each other, be safe, be smart. Be back next time. Who knows where this is going to lead.